Hello, welcome. It's another Monday. I'm here to translate what is happening in the cosmos for you so that you can use what you learned to better navigate your emotional wellness this week and bring a little bit more consciousness to your life. If you're new here, my name is Natha Campanella. So I went silent on my platform last week as a way to show solidarity with Black and Indigenous and people of color. I wanted to help amplify their voices. And I just want to go on record by saying that I am an ally. I am working my way towards being an accomplice for BIPOC and LGBTQ peoples. I'm going to do it imperfectly, but I'm here for it. And when I am working astrologically with clients and students, I'm always emphasizing that perfection is not the goal. The goal is the truth. And seeing the truth in the way that we interact with our outer and our inner world and looking for our personal responsibility in it so that we can be the shift, we can be the change. All right, so let's talk about the forecast for the week. This is the week of June 18th through the 14th. So eclipses last week, y'all, it was intense. Part of why those eclipses were so intense, there's a million reasons, but Mars was in an exact square to the sun and the moon. Mars is our planet of energy and action and drive, but it's also our planet of anger and war. So Mars is still in a square to the sun right now. Now, Mars is also going to come into conjunction with Neptune this week. This is happening in the sign of Pisces. So Mars being our anger, the way that we express our anger. Mars moves into Aries soon, okay? So right now, while Mars is in Pisces, here's what I encourage you to do. Be really, really mindful of the way that you're expressing your anger. Not so much the way that it's coming out, but the way that you're processing it in your own experience. Chiron is in the sign of Aries right now, has been for a few years, will continue to be. While Chiron is in Aries, we are collectively working on our relationship to anger, our wounding around anger, what we've learned about it. Is it dangerous? Do we repress it? What is happening when anger shows up in our experience? So we're doing this work collectively. That's one layer. Mars in the sign of Pisces is muted anger. Believe it or not, it's confused anger. Because Pisces is so confusing. Pisces is not tangible. We have been seeing a lot of anger, okay? So imagine that this is Piscean anger. This is anger where we are a little bit confused still and we're, don't really know what's happening. So I would suggest to lay off of drugs and alcohol as much as you can so that you can process the anger. You can feel it in your body. You can figure out how you want to express it, so that you can be as clear as possible with it. Because when Mars moves into Aries, which is the sign that it rules on June 30th, we're going to see some explosions. So the more that you can get a handle, a sense, a deep inner knowing of what your anger is like, what it feels like, what you're doing with it, how you want to express it, all the better. So that way, when Mars moves into Aries at the end of the month to stay for 5 months, you're not as prone to the explosive, which can also be detrimental versions of anger, okay? So that. Now we also still have Venus in retrograde. Venus in retrograde in the sign of Gemini. So it is still incredibly important to be having these conversations within our relationships. Difficult conversations, but conversations where we're listening. We're not just talking, we're listening. We're here for it. We are open to changing our perspectives, open to seeing things through a different lens. Okay, this is still really important relationally for us. And then finally, you're going to love this. Mercury goes retrograde this week. Yeah, in the sign of Cancer. So this happens on Sunday. I'm going to be talking more about it next week for sure. But Mercury in retrograde, again, asks us to go back and communicate. Look at the ways that we have communicated poorly, look at how we can communicate more effectively. And by the way, it's going retrograde in the sign of Cancer, which is the sign of emotions. So really the more in touch with our emotions, with our felt sense of anger, of grief, of confusion, of sorrow, happiness, joy, the better, because the more that we know what's happening, the better we can articulate them. And next week, we have another eclipse as well. I'm going to talk more about that too. But remember, we're in the thick of eclipse season. I have my eclipse class. It is still available, still super relevant, and you can find that in the link in my bio. If you have questions for me, suggestions for me, please reach out via DM. If you have questions that you would like to ask underneath this post, please do. People find it very useful to see other people asking questions, and I can answer them and everybody can learn. All right. Have a great week. I'll see you next week.